Hey guys, it's Victoria and welcome back to FemmeHead. Our menstrual cycles are actually this incredible window into our overall health and well-being and can often be the canary in the coal mine. So I recently used my cycle and charting to shed some light on things that were going on with my physical and mental health. And so I thought it could be a helpful video to just kind of go over all the things that can go wrong with you. Well, this isn't like a complete, that's probably like a textbook amount of information, but this is just kind of like the general big things that can go wrong with your cycle. And so I guess things to look out for that aren't normal, because one amazing thing about charting your cycle is you learn what's normal and what's healthy for you. And then when things stray away from what your normal cycle and chart looks like, it might point to other issues going on. Or if you already have pre-existing issues that are happening and you're having trouble figuring out what it is, starting to chart your cycle can help figure out what's going on, or give your doctor or medical provider more information and a clearer picture or bigger picture to your health. So let's start with our actual period blood. I think it's so fascinating that the color and I guess maybe flow and consistency of our period blood can actually point to certain things. The creme de la creme of period blood is red, bright red with no clots. This is good. This means your estrogen and progesterone are in balance. So if your period is purple or more purplish, eggplant, that sort of family of color, and has clots, this means that you have too much estrogen in comparison to your progesterone levels. There's imbalance between how much estrogen and progesterone you have. So other things that can go along with this one are heavier periods, more PMS symptoms, stronger cramps, bigger moods, depression. I'm just gonna kind of like point things out as I go through them to be like, this is my personal experience. So I was definitely, and kind of still do, have clots. And I would say it's more of like a darker, reddy purpley color. So I know that my estrogen and progesterone are out of balance. And so this is like one of the many things that pointed to that. Brown spotting, there are cases in which this is completely normal and natural. Like if you have just recently started getting your period, brown is pretty normal. Like my first period was brown and I didn't know it was my period because I expected red. And so I thought I had pooped my pants. Fun story. So brown isn't necessarily bad in comparison to like clotty periods. But brown essentially just means that there's not enough progesterone. Some issues with this one is it's harder to maintain a pregnancy if you are trying to conceive. Like progesterone is that sticky dust they talk about in like TTC forums and stuff. If your blood resembles prune juice, this could increase your chance of longer cycles or skipped cycles, mood swings, anxiety, depression, trouble concentrating, sleep disturbances, headaches, low libido. So I was also having quite a bit of brown spotting too, just because I was having a lot of premenstrual spotting and then at like the tail end of my period. So when I was actually having my period, it was very dark and there were quite big clots, or just like a lot of clots, and then I was having brown spotting too, so those kind of went together. If your blood is pink, that means that your estrogen is too low. Other symptoms to like go towards your estrogen being too low and having pink blood: shorter periods, loss of skin elasticity, vaginal dryness, low sex drive, hair loss, anxiety and depression, difficulty conceiving. So if you look up symptoms of like estrogen dominance or progesterone deficiency, you'll see a lot of overlap, because oftentimes like if you have too much estrogen, you're not going to have enough progesterone, or if you have low progesterone, you're going to have too much estrogen. So it's pretty common for, you know, if one's out of balance, they're both out of balance, because they just often go hand in hand. So I have this whole list of estrogen dominance and then progesterone deficiency. I'll put them on the screen. Mood swings, irritability, decreased sex drive, worsening PMS symptoms, irregular periods, heavy periods, bloating, weight gain, anxiety, hair loss, trouble sleeping, fatigue, fertility issues, memory issues and mental fog, hot flashes, and night sweats. And there are so many on that list that I was experiencing, and they're slowly getting better. So take time to look at this list if you're having issues. Going along with that is progesterone deficiency. So back in the day, like years ago, before we started trying to have kids and before I had kids and all of that, I knew I had a progesterone deficiency because of the premenstrual spotting and the other luteal phase issues that were going on, but I never really looked at estrogen dominance or having an excess of estrogen going along with the progesterone deficiency. So progesterone deficiency, abdominal pain, sore breasts, spotting between periods, vaginal dryness, depression, anxiety, or mood swings, low libido, low blood sugar, hot flashes, and night sweats. So you will hear several that kind of are on each list. I'm actually working with a company on a video coming up where I'm going to test my hormone levels. I haven't gotten the kit yet, so I can't say one way or the other. So keep your eye out for that if you're curious about testing your hormone levels like at home. But you can definitely go into your GP or whoever it may be, your medical provider, and get your hormones tested. But it is important to know like where in your cycle you should test certain hormones. If you have thyroid issues, that can also show up in your cycle. So thyroid issues are either hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism. So for hypothyroidism, it can show up in your menstrual cycle as heavy menstrual bleeding, longer or more frequent periods, infrequent cycles, missing periods, infertility, or miscarriage. You will see in a lot of these that like when your cycle or your hormones are out of balance, one of the fertility issues, infertility, miscarriage, like it's amazing how many things have to line up correctly for you to not only conceive, but like grow and birth a healthy baby. It is wild that there are so many babies out there when all the things that our bodies amazingly do all on their own. Hyperthyroidism can show up as absent or infrequent periods, light and short periods, decreased fertility, risk of miscarriage. Moving right along, PCOS. This is another very, common one. I feel like PCOS and endometriosis. I'm going to talk about both of those, but I feel like PCOS is so common. Some of the things that will show up if you have PCOS is irregular or missing periods, infertility, and this is one of the most common causes of infertility for women is PCOS. Excessive hair growth, but not in the places you want it. So you'll see hair growth on your face, your chest, your back, or your butt. In relation to that, you will see thinning hair on your head. Weight gain is another common one. Like when you think of people with PCOS, I always think of people with like thinning hair, weight issues, and then oily skin or acne. Those are some of the signs of PCOS. If you're curious about this sort of stuff, I love books like Period Repair Manual, In the Flow, Woman Code. Those are all just good ones if you want to learn more or start the journey of figuring out how to solve these issues. Endometriosis is another common one you hear about with like cycle or menstrual issues. And from my understanding, this one, it takes a long time for women to finally get diagnosed with endometriosis because so much of our pain as females is written off as like, oh, that's just part of being female. So endometriosis, painful periods, pain with intercourse, pain with bowel movements or urination. Like I just think of like you have a lot of pain with endometriosis, excessive bleeding, so heavy periods or bleeding between periods, infertility, fatigue, diarrhea or constipation, bloating or nausea, especially during periods. So yeah, there's just a lot of pain around your periods. And then the last one that I could think of, I know I'm missing so much, but uterine fibroids. So how this can show up in your periods, heavy periods, periods lasting longer than a week, pelvic pressure or pain, frequent urination, difficulty in emptying your bladder, constipation, backache, or leg pain. And all those are caused from those fibroids growing. So by charting our cycles, we are giving ourselves this wealth of knowledge into our cycles and into our health, whether that is physical or mental. Looking over these lists of especially the like estrogen and progesterone ones for me, like that's where my issues were showing up. I had a hormonal imbalance between those. It's just helped me start figuring out which path I needed to head down, what I needed to try to figure out, what I was looking for, what I was trying to like fix. So like I said again, charting just gives us this like map into our health and well-being that people who don't chart don't get. Learning how to chart my cycle is the best thing I've done for my health, my overall health. As always, I will have the link in the bio for my Chart Your Cycle course. And I'm working on a new course that is all about like syncing your life to your cycle, or your cycle and your life together, to just make the most out of each phase, live in sync with your cycle instead of like pushing yourself too hard, and just getting more from your cycle and from your life. So I thought that was just interesting that all the ways these different health issues can show up in our menstrual cycles. And I mean, obviously there are so many health issues, and I talked about what, like 5 maybe, but our hormones control every aspect of our body. And so if our hormones are out of whack, it shows up in so many different places. So I think it's just a good thing to keep in mind. Anyways, I will stop blabbing about that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Hopefully none of this is going on with you, but if it is, hopefully this helps point you in a certain direction. I will also link those books I mentioned down below, because if you want to dig deeper into that, I think those are great resources. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.